So why the shift in policy when it comes to the controversial pipeline? Well, as the saying goes, follow the money. A lobbyist for foreign partners of the Nord Stream 2 project gave $10,000 to a pro-Biden super PAC and another $2,000 to Biden's 2020 campaign. And guess what? To date, Team Biden hasn't returned a dime of the questionable donations, despite pledging to reject lobbyist contributions. Joining me now, Deputy Executive Director of America Rising, Chris Martin. Chris, if this was President Trump, wouldn't the Democrats be crying Russia, Russia, Russia?
Oh, absolutely. And you know better than anyone that, over the last 4 years, we saw and heard every day it was Russia, Russia, Russia. Republicans couldn't get out of bed in the morning without being accused of Russian collusion or being agents of the Russian government. And now, lo and behold, it's Joe Biden and the Democrats who are propping up Vladimir Putin by greenlighting this pipeline.
Well, and when you see this about the donations that have been going on, foreign donations, I don't think any of us are really that surprised by it. We knew of Biden's complicity with China, the Ukraine. Obviously, we knew all that. But how much is this impacting energy policy? Because we're not going to be energy independent anymore.
Well, that's the real question we have to ask. And when you think about this, on Joe Biden's first day in office, he signed an executive order that killed the Keystone XL oil pipeline. That's an American pipeline that supported thousands of American jobs and made us more energy independent. And then he turns around this week and he greenlights a Russian pipeline that goes from Russia to Germany and carries natural gas. And now Europe is going to be more reliant on Russia for their energy. So I think what this does a few things, the worst of which is it sends a message across the world, especially to our enemies in North Korea and China, that Joe Biden can be pushed around, that he's a weak leader. And if they push hard enough, they can also get these concessions.
Well, President Trump was right when he would say, if Biden wins, China wins and Russia wins. And of course, Biden didn't really win. So I guess it would be Biden cheats, China cheats, Russia cheats. But when you look at this, they really are calling the shots now because America, we're not first anymore. So Russia and China, they're really gaining a foothold and putting America last.
Yeah, and this is just one example of Joe Biden really hurting American workers and leaving them behind. And America Rising launched an entire website devoted to this, to giving a voice to those Americans who have been left behind by Joe Biden's policies. You can check it out at leftbehindbybiden.com. And it tells so many stories of different policies, especially around the energy space, that Joe Biden's implemented that have destroyed jobs and made it harder for American companies and workers to compete with folks around the world, including in China and Russia.
Well, can you tell us some of those stories that you're hearing? Because the American worker, they were so supported by President Trump under the last 4 years. What have you been hearing from them?
Well, one example I can give you is you might remember Georgia passed an election integrity law that the media and Democrats went after with a lot of aggression. The MLB ended up pulling their All-Star game out of Atlanta, which brings in $100 million in tourism revenue to Georgia. Joe Biden fully supported that boycott, and that left a lot of workers, especially in the service industry in Georgia, without a lot of revenue that they would have otherwise had. So down the line, it's just one policy after another. It's the message he sends to American workers that they're no longer first, that it's our foreign interests that he puts first now.
Well, and American workers, they're not getting back to work. We see the reports of industries, when you look at the hospitality industry, they're really trying to get people to come back to work, but they're making a lot more money on welfare right now. How do we incentivize? I know Republican states are trying to, incentivize these workers to get back to work, but what can the American people do as well to get America back to work?
Well, the first thing they can do is they can make sure to vote in the midterm elections next year. But in the short term, the economy has really been damaged by Joe Biden and the Democrats' policies. These enhanced unemployment benefits, where you look at the statistics, someone making $32,000 a year or less last year are now making more in unemployment benefits not working. That's not going to incentivize people to go back to work. And we saw that reflected in the latest jobs report. And then the Democrats and Joe Biden look at those numbers and they say, this just means we need to push even farther to the left with our policies. We need to pump more stimulus money in. And one thing that people don't talk about is the inflation issue that it's causing. All this artificial money being pumped into the economy is driving up costs for goods and services, and that hurts middle and low-income Americans.
And it's so sad for these small businesses because what are they going to do? The Biden administration's not helping them, trying to get employees back to work. It's really sad to see our country becoming like this. President Trump really was the greatest jobs president we ever had, and Biden is the worst. And of course, he's not even the president, because who's running the country right now? But Chris, thanks for what you're doing, giving these people a voice, telling their stories, because Biden's not listening, but the American people are listening. So keep us posted on that.